Peace and
What's going
love.
on,
Peace and
Pops?
love. Assalamu alaikum, son.
Walaikum salam. What's going on, guys?
World. Salute world.
TwoTreys.
TwoTreys.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of TwoTreys podcast. It's me, Son Trey, and as always, with me is Pop Trey.
In the house, in the flesh. Peace and love.
All right, Pops, you want to go ahead and get into it? Let them know why we do this every day.
Absolutely. Yes, indeed, son. This channel is to inspire and bridge the gap between the youth and the elders, fathers and sons, the perspectives of truth versus the falsehood, and to reflect love and peace with the black male and the black community as well. Yes, sir.
Sounds beautiful to me. And before we get into it, guys, this is TwoTreys podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Also, in
Please.
our description box below, there's the donations tab for you to be able to leave a donation of your choosing. So please show your love and support, and we'll definitely reflect it back to you guys. All right, Pops,
Absolutely.
we have our honorable mention of today.
Yes, we do.
If you want to let them know who that is, I'll get that picture pulled up for us.
All right. Today we are going to be honoring our late brother, George T. Sampson. George T. Sampson. If you guys utilize clothes dryers, you have to thank this man for his mind and his purpose that he was here on this earth. We ready for him?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. George T. Sampson came from Dayton, Ohio. His clothes dryer, U.S. patent number 476,416 was a frame that suspended clothing above a stove so that it dried more quickly. Prior to Sampson's invention, clothes dryers were being invented in England and France in the form of ventilators, which were essentially barrels with holes in them. The barrels would be turned by hand over a fire. Sampson's invention was also a ventilator, but it eliminated the need for an open flame and used frames instead of a barrel. George T. Sampson is credited for paving the way to more modern clothes dryers. Electrical clothes dryers did not appear until around 1915, and the Hamilton Manufacturing Company produced the first fully automatic dryer in 1938. Sampson's other known patent for a sled propeller, number 312,388, was filed in 1885 and involved attaching a propelling device to a tricycle. The wheels were replaced with runners so it would function on the snow. People occupying the sled would operate the propeller with their feet using pedals. The diagrams for this and Sampson's other patent are still on file with the U.S. Patent Office today. Salute, Brother George T. Sampson. Honorable mention for the day.
Yes, sir. We honor you. We honor you, George T. Sampson. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, Pops. Let's go ahead and get into the show for today.
Man, we got a hot topic, a subject that was presented to me a little earlier today by a customer / friend, Twalita. Salute, Twalita. She has mentioned that there are some things in which she would like to get a discussion about, and that is in reference to toxic relationships.
Okay.
Relationships. All right. So, with that being said, let's jump in. I believe you have something that from a doctor or a psychiatrist that you wanted to play.
No, I was just taking notes from what she said. I mean, I could play it, but
Okay.
it's kind of lengthy and.
Well, if you want
so I did the liberty of making a PowerPoint of essentially the main points of what she said. If we want to we can take a quick look at that if you'd like.
We could do that. I mean, if you're able to play some sort of audio, and we could just go ahead and just break it up. You don't have to play the whole thing at once. If you want to just play a portion, then we can just chime in.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. Well, just give me a minute then.
All right. So I mean, while you do that, I just wanted to read something
Right.
from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We have a book, a study guide. Lessons called the self-improvement, the basis for community development. And in these guides, or in this particular lessons, in which was given to us by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he teaches us about relationships, everything to develop self, everything to develop the community, and pretty much give us ideas on how to maneuver or challenge or overcome obstacles with people, with relationships. Just a brief paragraph. I'm just going to read something from him to get us started. Page 7. I am in the self-improvement, the basis for community development. Fourth paragraph. Now look, as we move towards union, male and female, or move towards union, people with people. This union brings joy and peace in a measure. When you marry, that doesn't mean that you are united. That means your intention to unite has been sanctified in the presence of witnesses. You have intended to come together as one, but it takes years of struggle to overcome the problems that keep male and female, which are made by God to be together as one. It takes years of struggle to become one. But when you become one, there is joy and peace in that union. So I just wanted to put that out there as our first introduction into the topic toxic relationships, but also make aware that every relationship or everything that we do in our lives, we should always strive for a peaceful resolution. Peace as far as the end result, peace as far as the goal going into a situation, resolving peace with anybody that you have conflict with, that circumstances brought about a situation where you are opposed or looking at things in opposition. Peace has to always be in the heart and mind to achieve, to obtain, and to maintain. Okay, dealing with people and dealing with all relationships. Peace has to be the main focus. I just want to put that out there.
Yeah. So I mean, the subject is toxic relationships.
Right.
Um, I think it needs to be talked about because a lot of us are just out of what I've witnessed. A lot of people are dealing with that.
Right.
Um, whether it be with family, friends, coworkers, just relationships in general nowadays, people are having an issue with one another and finding, like you said, a resolution and a peace with one another.
Right.
And so yeah, I think this topic of conversation is something we should definitely dive into.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Uh,
You got a PowerPoint?
let's Yeah, I had the video pulled up. I'll go ahead and play that, and then we can look at the PowerPoint um, as like a highlighter essentially of what is stated in the video. Um, yeah, let me go ahead and I'll go ahead and share my screen now with you guys. Real quick though, we have in the comments Nasir Davis. He says TwoTreys back with the. I think that's a diamond.
John, yeah, the gym.
Yeah, the gems.
The gyms. Yes,
Yeah, we
sir.
try our best. We try our best.
We striving, man. We striving. Yes, indeed. Shout out to Nasir.
I'll go ahead and show his comment real quick,
Oh yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
then get the video pulled up.
All right. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe button, people. Please. Please.
All right, I'm going on to share my screen now.
All right. And this doctor is, what is her name?
Dr. Tracy Marks. That's another Tracy.
Hey, another Trey in the
Hey,
house.
I didn't. I swear I didn't do that on purpose. I swear to God.
Good, good. It's
No,
divine, son. It's divine.
sir.
Indeed. Yes, indeed.
Shoot, maybe one day we'll have her on the show. Be 3Treys.
You know what I mean? Yeah, absolutely. That look like a commercial or something. Fair use. Please, let's not forget that. Fair use.
How to recognize a toxic relationship. That's what I'm.
That was good.
Yeah, just give it a minute. It's just gonna buffer a little bit.
Okay.
Or buffer a lot. Just give me a second.
All right. Bear with us, people. Bear with us. How about the PowerPoint that you had created? Are you able to pull that up?
Yeah, that should be fine.
All right.
Just with the video though, I think it's just because we're streaming and then the YouTube, all that CPU at one time. But just give it a sec.
Right.
Think it might work. Cross my fingers.
All right.
It's loading. I'll give it like 30 more seconds. If not, I'll just go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint.
All right. Yeah, she has some interesting points when you was letting me hear it earlier.
Yep, her name is Dr. Tracy Marks. Let me at least while this is loading, I can at least give you guys a little background on the reference I used. If she has it down here below.
How to recognize a toxic relationship. All
right. Well, I'll give the video some time to load. If it loads, it loads, and then I'll go ahead and play it. But I have the PowerPoint, so like I'll just if it starts playing, I'll just go right back to it.
All right. Sounds good. Signs of an unhealthy
We're going to be
relationship.
talking about today. I'm
Well, as soon as I
give
got
you
it pulled
10
up.
red flags to recognize and 4 ways to detox the relationship. I'm Dr. Tracy Marks, a psychiatrist.
As soon as I get it pulled up, it starts playing.
Right. It's all good.
Oh, jeez.
It was buffering again. Oh man. Jesus, come on. Jesus, come on.
I know, right? All right, I'm gonna give up on it. Let me go. Let me go ahead and I'll just show the PowerPoint.
All right.
If I can get it pulled up later, that'll be cool. Maybe just need some time to catch up.
All right.
All right, so let me go to the PowerPoint.
All right. Let's go. Signs of an unhealthy relationship. Do
So
you
at
have
least
those signs?
so right. So the information I got pulled up on this PowerPoint is essentially what she was gonna go over, guys. Anyways, so let's get into this. Signs of an unhealthy relationship, or as we like to call it nowadays, a toxic relationship. Same thing. Same issues and same solutions. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right. So the biggest things are the red flags when we're dealing with people, of course. Um, it doesn't matter essentially, who it is. It could be a family member, like I said earlier, a friend, your significant other, just anyone you deal with. We have relationships with the people that we know. Um,
Right.
and like the topic of the discussion is a toxic relationship. So these are the red flags, the telltale signs of um you being in a toxic relationship, whether you're the one that's the victim or the one that's doing these actual behaviors. All right, so we have constant fighting. So essentially, with that is essentially whenever you're with this person, you guys are unable to get to a point of resolution.
Right.
Even when you disagree with somebody, there should at least be a point of respect, and essentially that when you're in constant fighting with someone, it's just a lack of respect for the other person. Um, and this goes for physical fighting as well as verbal as well.
Right.
The next one we have is lying and oh, Pops, did you want to go ahead and touch on that real quick? The constant fighting.
Yeah, I mean, constant fighting, just the senseless bickering over the senseless, uh, less important things. I know some of us can relate to that. Have been in situations where you just can't get along with the person. That even the sudden movements of a person is irritating. Uh, but that has a lot to do with the toxicity of the relationship, the lack of communication thereof, positivity going on inside of the house or inside of the relationship, between the two people. um, just a constant more fighting than there is love. um, that
All
that
right.
is definitely signs of a toxic relationship.
Yes, sir. All right. So for the next one, we have lying and dishonest actions. So I'm assuming know what lying is. Is when you're not telling the truth. And dishonest actions is essentially your actions. Let's say you say you're gonna go do one thing, but you actually go do another, or your intent behind doing something to that person that you're having a relationship with is knowing you're knowingly dishonest about what you're doing. So that goes without saying. Pops, if you want to touch on that one real quick.
Yeah, this I mean, as far as the lying, that's self-explanatory. um Sometimes people may give
Actually, let's slow down real quick. So lying, I don't think is as clear as we know it to be.
mhm,
So let's just clarify what lying is. Lying is essentially not telling the truth.
right.
We know that one, but it is also omitting uh truths as well. So leaving like let's say you're telling a story and you're leaving part of the story out uh because that will incite a different response out of the person. um in response another case of saying if you were to put that part of the story in, so it's omitting the truth as well. um And essentially lying uh I would say this, it's just not being truthful. It's just not being truthful. So when you're like telling white lies, for example, that constitutes as it, and telling half truths. So like I was saying, omitting things
Right.
to fit a narrative is also lying in a dishonest action. So
Amen.
I'm sorry, Pops. I just wanted to
No, you
break that
good?
down because
Yeah,
we
yeah.
think lying is like, but nah, some people really stretch it to fit to fit them. Um,
Right.
so if
Right.
you want to go ahead and continue.
I mean, other than to piggyback off of what you just said, son, that was excellent. And also to when people lie, sometimes they lie to gain a certain status. You know what I mean, or to make themselves look better than you know, better than what they appear to be. You know what I'm saying? Whenever a lie is to throw off the mind of yourself or a situation, and you intended to do that, that is wrong. Um, when I use the word intended, um, that means the intentions, the goal set was to trick, manipulate, deceive somebody into thinking something that's not true. So absolutely.
Right. So next one we have is the my way or the highway attitude. So
Mm,
essentially, what that means is if so, okay. For this one, it's super simple, guys. There's multiple ways to get a job done or to solve a problem. So
right.
essentially, what I'm saying, but when I say that is, I have my way of doing something that gets it done, and you have your way of doing something that gets it done. Um, but when we come together, we have to decide, right, on
Mm-hmm.
which way we're gonna do it. Because I can't do it my way, and then you do it your way when the situation requires cooperation. Um,
Right.
so in that sense, you have to be able to um look at what the other person has to offer and say, you know what, based on what this situation calls for, your route seems better. And if it seems like your way is better, then you can speak on it. But it shouldn't be this attitude of my way or the highway. Like, oh, if we're not doing it the way I say we're doing it, then we're just not going to do it at all. That type of attitude, that's not going to work.
Right. Right.
Pops, you want to speak on that one?
I mean, yeah. I mean,
What are your
it's
thoughts?
this. Yeah, it's the selfishness in which a lot of us carry that characteristic or trait. Um, Being selfish in ways in which you only see it from your side of the view. Um, a person who is open and who is able to uh, see the perspectives of others by putting on somebody else's shoes and imagining themselves in that person's shoes. To me, that is most important uh, when dealing with relationships and relationships. You know what I'm saying? Just being able to see the view from another person's eyes. That's a great quality to have. Um, but the selfishness, my way, highway, that is that is not good. You're not the only person in the world. You know what I mean? So everything that goes on is not supposed to be according to the way you think it's supposed to go. So I definitely agree with that one.
Right.
What else we got?
All right. So we got one-sidedness.
Right.
So in that sense, one-sidedness means that the relationship is
We live
only
to trade.
beneficial
YouTube,
or opportune
like, share, and
to
subscribe.
one individual in that relationship. So
Right.
essentially, when we say one-sidedness, this is essentially one person taking advantage of another in a relationship. So this isn't a healthy relationship. It's more parasitic in nature, um, where one person expects the other person to do for them without the obligation of reciprocity.
Right.
So Pops, if you want to go ahead and speak on that one, give your thoughts.
Um,
One-sidedness.
yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, it has a lot to do with selfishness. Only being able to see your side of things is the selfish, one-sided side. You know what I mean? When there's two people are involved in a situation, you know what I mean, you got to be able to put on, like I said, put on the other person's shoes and see it from their eyes. You know what I mean? How would you feel if you were the one receiving whatever backlash or whatever type of approach from somebody that you have to now respond to? You know what I mean? Um, a lot of us get caught into our own way of looking at things of how it is, and that can sometimes lead us into a very isolated environment because not a lot of people are going to want to be around you if you only see things from your side of view.
Right. And I think what you're getting at is essentially like this is kind of stemming back to essentially the same thing, which is a lack of empathy towards others.
Right. Right.
This one-sidedness, my way or the highway, this feeling of lying and being dishonest without there having to be repercussions. Yeah, it stems back to selfishness, which is you showing you have a lack of empathy for others. It's all about
Right.
you. All right. So we have the next one is they refuse to do things that matter to you.
Mm.
So essentially for this one in a relationship, say you like to eat pizza at Chuck E. Cheese and they refuse to go to Chuck E. Cheese with you to eat pizza, but in the same breath would ask you to eat mac and cheese at Shoney's. I don't know, but something of that effect. So
Right.
essentially, not feeding who you are. So essentially, in how I'm looking at it is like what makes you you doesn't matter to that person. You want to go ahead and jump on that one, Pop?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, show like that goes along with the selfishness. You know what I mean? But it's all about me as the individual. Um, when we are together with somebody, we always want to share the things that we enjoy doing alone with the person that we're with. And if that person is not, catching on or doesn't enjoy the same things, that's a downer. You know what I mean? And
Right.
how
But that's there's a sorry to cut you off, boss, but
you good?
there's
You good? You good?
a thought of that. It's just like you might not have an interest in what I do, right?
Right.
But that doesn't hinder you from showing an interest in what I do, just because you don't do it.
Right.
So, for example, you may like a certain type of video game, right? I don't play video games, but I know you like playing video games. So, how should I? And I think this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the forgiveness. Is
Mm-hmm.
like, yo, you can't expect an apology on your own terms. Like, if you want to build a relationship with someone, you have to get out of yourself and try to fit
Indeed.
yourself in their shoes and relate with them.
Right.
So what I'm getting at is I don't like playing video games. I know you like playing video games. If I know I want a healthy relationship with you, what I should do is show interest in you playing because you like video games. So if that's me just watching you play and cheering you on, or playing with you, or getting you a game, or what I'm saying, there's so many routes you can
Right.
do to show interest in what someone has interest in. And when you
Right.
don't do that, again, it just reflects that, yo, you actually don't care about this person and who they actually are.
Now to play a little devil's advocate, per se. Let's just say that the individual. Let's just say I I like to work out, okay, but this person does not like to work out. You know what I mean? That can create a conflict. But if I already know ahead of time that this person doesn't like to work out, then I have to just say, you know what? That's one thing I know that I cannot do with this individual. So I'm
Right.
not going to expect them to do it because I won't even ask. But if they come around one day and say, hey, I want to go work out with you in the gym. Oh, man. Oh, praise you do to Allah. Let's go. You know what I mean? But it doesn't always have to be something in which that person just doesn't enjoy doing. They just might not be, you know, in the realm of or in the mindset of doing those type of things. You know, I'm not going to say it's always going to be a case where that person doesn't care. I'm not going to generalize that. I can't generalize that. But I will just say, you know, if it matters to somebody that is important to you, then at least try. You know what I mean? At least
Right.
try it once.
Yeah, I mean that I can make the case with that. It's just like, so the person doesn't like working out. That's fine. You don't have to come work out with me, but
Right.
after the gym, if you see me after the gym, be like, yo, you went to like conversate about it. Don't it? You know what I'm saying? Just because in that sense, so what I'm kind of speaking about is almost like the ignoring of that person, that side of that person.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I'm saying? I know you don't like you don't like going to the gym, but I like going to the gym.
Right.
Next time you see me, and I don't know, you could ask me something a gym related question, or like it doesn't necessarily mean you have to partake in what I do,
Right.
but just for you to respect that I this is what I do and this is what I respect and this is what I care about. We can at least speak on it, or you know what I'm saying, like I said before, like you don't have to play the video game with me.
Right.
You can just go buy me a video game that will make me happy, or we can or just being an ear for me when I want to talk about it. You don't have to say anything.
Mm-hmm.
But just being, you know what I'm saying, being there, being respectful, being attentive to what I'm saying, things like that, that shows that you care about what the things I do.
Right.
But
Right.
the opposite would be, for example, okay, you like playing video games, I don't. Every time you talk about playing video games, I try to shut you up. Like, no, dude, I don't want to talk about video games. I told you I don't like video games. Stop talking to me about video games.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That kind of behavior. Or when I play video games, you're like, all right, bro, peace. I'm out. I can't be around you when you're playing. That type of attitude shows that, yo, you don't care. That's part of me that I care about, you don't care about. And
Right.
there's no respect there. So again, it's like you don't. It's not about you. It's not about your interest in it. It's about you knowing that I have an interest in it.
Right. Right. And you don't want to be with somebody or hear the words of, you know, why are you doing that, or I just don't get it, or you know, that's not me, that's you. You know, those are you know, words that don't sound like they are hurtful when they're said to the person that they're saying them to, but to the person that you are saying them to, it is hurtful, because it really sounds as if you don't care. And you know, the heck with you and everything that you do. That's you. That's not me. I mean, to have that type of an attitude is detrimental, man. So be mindful
Right.
of that as well. What's the
Yeah.
next one
I
I
just want
got?
to say for me, before we
Okay.
continue, I just want to say for
Yep.
me, I'm a very like curious, playful person when it comes to this human experience. So for me, I just know I don't know everything. I haven't
Right.
experienced everything. So my a benefit of having a healthy relationship with people is essentially they get to show you a side of themselves that you have no experience in, for example. And they could, you know what I'm saying? It going into it, you may not have any interest, but you may learn to have an interest. But
Right.
you don't even
Right.
but
Right.
for someone like this, you don't even give yourself the opportunity to grow as a person. Because you're guarded, and you're only interested in what you do rather than what
Right.
other people do. I have an interest in what other people. That's why I think we talked about it on other podcast where I said, yo, I ask people what their superpowers are. And
Yeah, I remember you
reason
telling me.
a part of the reason why I do that is like, yo, I want to see them in action. I want to see what you do.
Right. Right.
Show
Right.
me.
What's your gift?
Right.
Right.
And someone that with this mentality is like, yo, kind of like F what you can do. It's all about, and I just don't. I have a disdain for that. Um. All right. So,
Absolutely.
anyways,
Good teaching.
the
Good
next
teaching,
one is
man.
code. Yes, sir. The next one is codependency.
Mm.
Codependency.
All
So
right.
what that means is in a unhealthy way. So we're all essentially, I believe, is we're all codependent on each other in society,
Right.
to get things running. So there's a healthy level of codependency, but what we're speaking about here is an unhealthy level of codependency. This is, for example, when you're not around the person, you feel like you need to uh like get in contact with them urgently, and just you have to have them around, or you alone, there's like it's unhappy. So essentially so this is what it is. Great. That's why I love talking about this. All right, so essentially
Take your time.
your happiness does not belong to you. Your happiness is in the hands of somebody else. So to to be happy, you can't make yourself happy. You are relying on someone else to make you happy. So
Mm.
that's the level of codependency that this word is talking about, and this is where it gets unhealthy, where your happiness
Teach.
and your joy isn't yours anymore. You've put it in something in someone else.
Teach.
Um, and in doing that, I can tell you right now that every single time it's always going to lead to what is the word, disappointment,
Okay.
because that person is not responsible of making you happy. So they're always going to fail at it because that's not their job. Your job is to make yourself happy. That's not someone
Right.
else's job. So
Right.
yeah, so this codependency leads to constant disappointment. Pops, you want to go ahead and speak on that?
Man, you just laid it down, man. I was just gonna go over the definition. Uh, as far as what Google is saying, codependency is a learned behavior that can be passed down from one generation to another. It is also known as relationship addiction because people with codependency often form or maintain relationships that are one-sided, emotionally destructive, and or abusive. So
Mm,
you pretty much hit everything on the nail right there, son. I have nothing to say after that. Great teacher.
word. All right.
Yes,
So
sir.
the next one we have is abusive behavior. And that
Mm,
means essentially physical, mental, or emotional uh, abuse to
verbal,
another person. All of that. Pops,
spiritual.
you want to go ahead and dive into that one?
Uh, shucks,
Abusive
man.
behavior.
Just being an aggressive individual is a bad characteristic trait. Um, being the aggressor, as far as being a bully, starting drama, um, with the purpose of hurting, um, impeding, uh, preventing somebody else's growth and success. Um, Abusive behavior for a verbal sense, just putting somebody down verbally, attacking somebody, uh, attacking somebody's character flaws, um, making suggestions without alternative. Um, that is another form of abusive behavior as far as verbal. Um, when you're chastising somebody for doing something that they like doing, and you don't provide an alternative to what they're doing. Now, we may not think that that could be abusive, but that can prevent somebody from continuing on that course in which they chose to do and look at something totally different, you know what I mean, based upon your words to them. Um, we got to go into the physicality. That's self-explanatory. Um, Everybody should keep their hands to themselves. You know, there should never. Well, there's only special circumstances when you may have to put your hands on somebody. That will only be in defense. You know what I mean? And if you're never the aggressive one, then you shouldn't never feel like you are. Uh, you should never feel guilty about anything. Um, when I say spiritual abuse, um, that can be on several occasions, on several aspects of verbal, emotional, putting somebody down, which means that their spirit is down. You know what I mean? They may not want to go on with life. You know, so we have to be very, very, very careful with the words that we speak to each other, and be mindful of somebody else's intentions. What you got, son?
Right. I think the we were speaking on the spiritual abuse. I think that
Mm,
happens when you essentially attack someone's insecurities. So essentially,
mm,
what it's crazy because it's so wrong to do, but essentially what you've done is you've learned that person over the time that you've known them and acquired a sense of who they are, and you get a sense of their strengths and weaknesses, and instead of
right.
helping them grow their weaknesses and improve their strengths, um, you attack their weaknesses, and then you turn their strengths, you essentially confuse them into believing that their strengths are actually weaknesses. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it should that it confuses the spirit. um yeah, and it's just not right. It's just not right to do.
Not at all.
It's
Not at all.
yeah. All
All
right,
right.
so we have the next one. We actually have a continued. Let me go ahead into the next page, next slide.
Man, there's so many red flags up there, man. Oh my goodness. We could go on for days with
Right,
this.
this is the last page of it, but I mean, if you look at them, all of this, and I think this is when we were speaking, and I'm kind of hearing like this. There's a narrative is almost like these type of people that participate in this behavior all do the same thing. Not all, let's say most do the same thing, in the sense that it sounds for like almost, when I'm naming down this list, I'm sure you can think of someone in your mind that is like, oh, this sounds like so and so.
Yep. Yep.
And it's because, guys, that when you don't know this information, their behavior seems unpredictable, is the word, and it's
Right.
hard for you to understand it because you don't most people don't participate in this behavior. Or you don't people shouldn't participate in this behavior on a consistent basis. um
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this: we may lie and do things wrong, and um you may have acted on some of these behaviors before, but not on a consistent level, so you don't operate on the same mentality as someone that this is their routine as when they deal with people. um
Right. Right.
but so yeah, so when you look at this kind of behavior, it's like when you see these type of people and you're going through the motions with them, you're like, oh, I can't, it's all hard to wrap my head around it, it's all unpredictable. But once you start doing this and essentially writing down the definitions and toxic behavior, you start realizing that a lot of these behaviors that these people participate in isn't unpredictable. It's actually very predictable once you know the information.
Right.
To the point where me personally, I've been able to identify people, you know what I'm saying, by using these words and identifying these flags within people that I've come across. And I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, there goes that behavior. And it, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, just
It,
watch out for these for sure.
and what basically, to simplify it a lot is when somebody comes into your presence and when they leave your presence. How did they leave you? Did they leave you in peace or did they leave you in confusion? You
Right.
understand? Whenever somebody walks into your presence, you know what I'm saying? Are they walking in your presence in peace initially and in peace once the conversation is over? That goes on the intentions of that individual. But that is also something that you have to be mindful of in knowing the spirit of somebody,
Yeah.
knowing that person's spirit.
It's essentially it's a kind of like you have to recognize sometimes when you're talking to somebody when you're talking with the devil, you know?
Mm, wow.
Where that person, you have to look at it that sometimes when you speak to somebody on a verbal level, they have a knife behind their back.
Right.
That's their intent is to hurt you. It's not, you know what I'm saying, to have a
Right.
productive, healthy relationship or conversation. It's
Right.
to catch you slipping. And as soon as they catch you slipping, they got you. Um,
Right.
so yeah, essentially you got to recognize sometimes that, you know, people out here, their mentalities are either of good intent or of negative. And that's the way of the negative mentality is like, yo, like their mindset is I can't wait until I can take it. I can't wait until this person slips up, so then I'm
Right.
able to put them in a position where I can have control over them and take advantage of them.
Knowing somebody's background, because you mentioned it earlier when you said that the behaviors don't necessarily change when a person is toxic, and that's true. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't change as much. Um, they may advance in doing things a little bit more wiser, but still wicked because they've gotten older.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And this is one thing I don't have on here on this list, pops. But
Mm-hmm.
another red flag is if they treat somebody else. If you see them treating somebody else in with these red flags, that's a red flag.
Right.
So if you
Right.
see them treating someone else like that, don't think that you're the exception, you're special or anything
Exception.
like
Right.
that. No,
Right.
that's how they treat people.
It's a pattern. It's a pattern we all have. Um, we call it a pattern. Some may call it a reputation. What is your reputation?
Mm-hmm.
What is your behavior from your past? You know what I'm saying? That's why, I think I mentioned it before in another podcast that when we go to court, the first thing that the judge do is look at your background. If you have a criminal record, did he look at that? If you have a driving record, they look at that. And they determine from your previous or past, you are more than likely to repeat the same thing, the same behavior. You know what I mean? I myself, I'm guilty of driving fast. So, and my record reflects. So when I go to court and the judge looks at my record, before he even looks at it, I just be honest. I'm honest. I'm like, look, Your Honor, I have a heavy foot. I know I was driving fast. I just asked the courts to be lenient on me, please. That's all I can ask, you know. And 9 times out of 10, whenever you're upfront, that happens. The judge may take it easy on you. But my point of saying that, bringing that up, is that we all have our bad habits and good habits. You know what I'm saying? So in the past, we look at our past to reflect the present and can determine based on those two things what our future will look like.
Right. All right. So let me go ahead and get through this page real quick so we can get to the solutions on what we should do. All right. So we have chronic anger.
Mhm.
And essentially the chronic anger is used to control the other person. So essentially, you know what I'm saying, just walking around angry, yo.
Right, for
Just
no reason.
if you touch them, they might bite. That kind of attitude.
Right,
Um,
right,
it makes it uncomfortable for the other person to, you know what I'm saying, be a person. It's like essentially you're having to walk on eggshells around this person, not to uh what is it poke the bear essentially.
right,
Um, in a healthy relationship, there aren't no bears. It's just it's supposed to be two people. So if you're in a relationship where the other person acts like a bear, you should get out of that. All right. So next one, real quick, is chronic sarcasm. So what that means is wit used to be bitter. So using wit in a bitter context.
hmm
Um, so this kind of ties into the attack of the person's uh insecurities and who they are. Um, so essentially, you know what I'm saying? It's just verbal bullying. That right there is just verbal bullying.
right,
Um, especially if the person lets it be known, like, hey, I don't like that kind of I don't like that kind of joke, and that person continues in the future. Yo, it's like we said before. When you let someone know something and they don't respect that, and that's something they can easily respect. They just choose not to. You
right.
shouldn't be dealing with them. Um,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna go to the next one, pops, and then if you want to
Yeah,
speak
yeah.
on
No,
the
go ahead.
first two, yeah. We have disparaging mindset. So disparaging mindset. Oh, I'm sorry. Disparaging humor. It's supposed to be disparaging humor. So again, this kind of ties into the sarcasm, the dark humor, uh, which is disguising essentially bitterness towards um the individual that it's pointed at. So someone like this, um, again, is kind of showing like a zealous attitude towards the other person. And honestly, it's kind of cowardice to me because instead of saying, you know what, I don't like that you do that. Instead of being real with the person, you know what I'm saying, and telling how you truly feel, you kind of disguise it, you know what I'm saying, and put
Right,
sugar over crap essentially.
right,
It's underhanded. It's like an underhanded jab in a sense.
right.
Pops, you want to speak on those first three real quick?
I mean, yeah, I mean, pretty much, the anger, the sarcasm, everything is based on negative energy. And like I mentioned earlier,
Right.
when you walk into somebody's presence, how you walk in their presence, it should be peace, and how you leave somebody's presence should be peace as well. And if that person is not feeling any of those, uh, once you enter or leave their presence, then something's wrong. You know what I mean? Your energy was off because that person didn't wake up saying, "Oh, I'm going to get pissed off today." Nobody wakes up saying that I'm going to get pissed off or I'm going to have a bad day. You know what I mean? It's usually somebody bringing something into our lives that creates the day that we weren't planning on having. You know, um, but I'm gonna let you
Right.
finish everything else so we can speed through it.
Yes, sir. So we have next one is controlling nature. So with controlling nature, I kind of look at that in a business sense, between and how you can look at the difference between a leader and the negative connotation of what a boss is. So a leader is someone that when you're working with them, essentially they are pulling the weight with you and are leading the way to the goal, and they're not trying to control you, they're working just as hard as you are to get the job done. And in the opposite, we have the controlling behavior, with that in that negative connotation that is associated with someone that has like a boss mentality. So instead of them pulling the weight with you, they're behind giving the orders and whipping the lash, but not actually putting the effort into getting the job done. And that person uses other people to essentially move through life, is essentially by controlling other people to get the things that they want done instead of getting their own hands dirty. Pops, you want to go ahead and speak on that one real quick?
Yeah, I mean, just having the mind of controlling, of maneuvering somebody's thought process to physically do something in which you are able or capable of doing yourself. You know what I mean? That's pretty much in a nutshell. And it's having that nature of just saying, "Oh, I gotta be in control. I gotta have this over their head. I have to use this to make them do something I want them to do." Just having that mindset of just using, whatever. Sometimes people use drugs. Sometimes people use the children. Sometimes people use money. You know what I mean? Whatever I can use over you, that I know that you have the feeling of loving or adoring so much, I will use that. I will make that my controlling mechanism. That is dead wrong.
Right. All right. So next one we have is excessive insecurity / constant assurance. So that essentially means, so we all have our insecurities, but
What's
it
excessive
becomes an
insecurity?
issue.
This, look,
Excessive insecurity is when I allow my insecurities to be your problem.
mm, okay,
So essentially, with that, that's essentially I'm looking to you to make me feel good, instead of
right,
essentially trying to make myself feel good on my own. I need you to tell me I look good today. And if you don't tell me that, it's just gonna ruin my day. I'm not gonna be able to operate. And that
right,
ties into the constant assurance. So essentially, the essentially that kind of ties into to needing to be right, needing to always be on top, uh, needing
or your
always
ego
needing
needs to
the
be
constant,
strong.
right, always needed the constant approval of others,
Right,
um, to essentially run as a person. Essentially, all of your reasons to even do isn't coming from you yourself. It's coming from getting the validation from other people. So
right,
essentially, that would be like us doing this podcast, not because we thought it was a good idea for us to do it ourselves, but we thought, oh, if we get millions of viewers, we can make millions of dollars. That kind of attitude, and um, again, it's just it's an outside finding security with outside of yourself instead of within.
right.
Next one,
Like
next one we have
we didn't
is
even have the yeah, we didn't even have
uh-huh.
the thought. We didn't even have the money on our mind. We didn't even say money. We was just talking about, yo, man, we just want to put something out there to show, the bond of ourselves and just bringing, a new, fresh look in the YouTube world. You know what I mean? That
Right.
has
Like
not become.
we didn't have the idea, right? And then ask everybody, yo, like y'all think we should do it? Should we really
Right,
do it? I need
right,
you to tell me that I should do this, so I
right,
do it.
right.
That's that mentality.
Yeah.
So next one we got is extremely opinionated. And what we mean by that is opinionated to the point where essentially they're disguising the fact that they're actually someone that's very judgmental.
Mm,
So essentially, it kind of ties back to the argument, constant fighting, but this is more about verbal. So essentially, always this also ties into the need to be right. So always having an opinion, even when they agree with you, they have to word it in a way so where it's the conversation is competitive in nature rather than
An
uh
agreement.
rather rather than an agreement, rather than it being you and I trying to get to a common understanding. It has to be, the dialogue is switched into a more of a competitive sense of who's right rather than let's be right together.
Right. Right.
Um
Well put.
and again,
That makes sense.
yeah, again, that type of mentality is someone that's trying to disguise that they're just really judgmental of people. Um Last one
Well,
we
it could
have
be
of red.
that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you, but that could be really
No, you're
either judgmental or that can be, like you said, that could be competitive.
good. Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of us are in
The
a
need to be right.
silent. Well, not just they need to be right, but because you may have given the right answer, I want some spotlight by providing the same answer, but I'm gonna put it in a different way, just so I can be right along with you.
Hmm. Last one we have of our red flags, and this is the biggest one I think, is manipulative behavior. So someone that is a manipulator. So essentially, this type of person uh intentionally uses mind games to uh sway, persuade, and control
Alter.
other people's thoughts and behaviors, right, and to alter. So someone like this tends to doesn't like to take no for an answer. So essentially, this is someone that's easier word, a plain word for this is a user, someone that uses people. So any way they can
But listen,
use you, that they have an idea of using you, that's what they're gonna do. So for this type of person, a telltale sign of this type of person is they don't take no for an answer. So if they ask you to do something, or want you to participate in something, um, they don't they don't take it they don't take it they'll essentially question you into still doing what they want you to do. So essentially giving you like if then questions. Well, what if I do this? Then will you do it? Um, so this person will essentially kind of like consistently question you about something that you didn't want to do. So if you've already told an individual that you don't want to participate in an event or something like that, and they come back at you at questioning why you don't want to do it and trying to coerce you into doing something that you've already stated that you don't want to do, that person is trying to manipulate you. Pops, you want
right?
to go ahead and weigh on that one real quick?
Yeah, I just wanted to break down the word user or using. Um, when somebody uses somebody else, let's just say I have $10 in my pocket and I don't want to use my $10. So I would ask you, do you have $10? Just knowing I have it already, but I don't want to spend my own. I want to use somebody else's. See, that's using. You understand? So if I don't have it, that means I need it. You know what I mean? Users ask for things that they don't need, but don't want to lose their own, but prefer to use somebody else's. You understand? Um, that is a manipulation in itself because
Right. So they like putting risk on other people rather than taking the risk and responsibility themselves.
right, because it's also a manipulation type of tactic or a lie. Because, like we said in the beginning of this podcast, that when you tell a lie, that just or you don't share all the truth. You know what I mean? When somebody is using somebody, they don't want that. They don't want that. They don't want them to know that I have it. You know what I mean? They don't want them to know that I already have what I'm asking for, what I'm looking for you to do for me. I can actually do it myself, but I just want you. I want you to use your hands. I want you to use your wallet to benefit me. You know what
Right.
I'm saying?
And before we move on, pops, to
Yeah.
essentially what the solutions to dealing with people like this are, let's just go over some like quick archetypes that we can think of off the top of our head that kind of fit these red flags. Someone
Right.
off the top of my head I can think of is the character Loki from the Thor comic book
Mm.
series. He's a very good
Fact.
example of someone who partakes in all of these behaviors. Uh,
Absolutely.
and how he essentially behaves. Is there anyone you can think of, pops?
A manipulator. Shucks, man. I mean, pretty much any stale relationship, or in a relationship in which, let's just say, I'm gonna use myself for instance, that there was uh there was something put in place, not under my control, but somebody used a certain, let's just say, person to prevent me from seeing you. Let's just, put that in some layman's terms. Um, when somebody puts, when somebody adds in another person to sway or change the
Change
perception,
the perception.
um, whenever that happens,
Whenever
you know what I
that
mean. I know
happens,
a lot of
I know a lot
men
of
can relate
men can
to
relate
being in
to
relationships
being in
and
a
having their
relationship and
clothes
having their
burned,
clothes burned
or their car
or their car
scratched,
scratched.
or their children being
Their
kept from them because they didn't do something that a
that
woman wanted them to
a
do.
woman wanted.
You know what I mean? Even though men can do the same thing, I'm just going by from my standpoint and viewpoint. But it goes both ways, man. But any toxic relationship that has anything dealing with the destruction of property, the you know the
Right.
manipulation
So
of
essentially,
relationship.
these an archetypical behavior of these is essentially any villain that you ever seen in any movie or show. They
Right,
participate in these behaviors. Um,
right.
but it's not solely them. These people actually exist, and you should be definitely aware of these red flags when you're dealing with people. Um, so let's go
You say
on
you had some.
to, if you know if right. So all right. So we're in the case of, all right. So let's say you've gone down this list of red flags, and you've uh are in question about some relationships. Let's see what you should do about it.
Right,
All right. So the what to do's. The first thing to do is step away and reflect. Step away from the relationship, and essentially, it kind of sounds cliche, and but essentially what you have to do is just look at it and say, yo, number one is me being in this relationship making me happy. That should be an easy question to answer, and if you're having a hard time to answer that question, that in itself should answer the question. um Essentially being able to look over the pros and cons of being in this relationship with said person, um and being able to discern um what you're enjoying from the relationship and what you're not enjoying. And if the list of what you're not enjoying is greater than what you are enjoying, or essentially if there's way too many negatives and positives, you should definitely reflect on that. um so okay, so let's say it is a case of there's more negatives than positives. The next thing you should do is create emotional distance between you and that individual. And so that way, a lot of what your issues are coming from at this point is that you're having an emotional response to their behavior, and
right,
you want to be able to distance yourself from having those emotional responses, because essentially, I think we've talked about this before. It's like, yo, when you see somebody like arguing in the streets, you don't know the topic of the conversation, and you don't know who's right and who's wrong. All you see is there's two people arguing. um
right.
so create emotional distance, not only for for others, if let's say someone's watching for that's one case, but it's mainly used to de-escalate the issue, because when your emotions are all tied into a toxic relationship, that's the worst place to be in, because that makes you even more susceptible to all those red flags that we were discussing before. So that use of creating emotional distance gives back the power to you, the individual. All right. So
remember
the
what
next one,
remember what I had read earlier from the words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, that our union should result in peace. So all of these what to do's are the things to do to increase your peace of mind.
right?
You know. Go
Exactly.
ahead.
All right. So the next one is to assess your own contribution. So this person could have been doing wrong the whole time, but the fact that you stayed in that relationship meant that you were enabling it, which means that you had a contribution into what happened. So you have to, even in that case, you still have to be able to assess your contribution on what was going on and what you allowed, or what you did yourself. So if you were arguing, did you argue back? If there was fighting or physical abuse, were you physically abusive back?
Right.
Um,
Right.
just being able to assess your own actions, and then being able to look at those actions that you um, did, and essentially we're going into the very next one, is addressing your own issue in the relationship. So now that you assessed yourself, all you can do, you have no control over what that other person does, unfortunately. Not unfortunately, but it's a great thing. You have no control over what they do because you're not a manipulator. Great.
Right.
But you don't have any control over what that person does. The only person that
Mm.
you should be manipulating and changing and having a sense of being able to criticize and do all these things is to yourself. That's the only person that you have control over. So
Right.
when we're saying address your own issue in the relationship, you need to change the parts of you that allowed this relationship to either continue to facilitate in the first place. Because a major thing, I'm happy I didn't forget about it, is these objectionable behaviors. A lot of times we allow them to happen is because they are familiar to us, not because they're right. Um,
Right.
so I think, Pops, what you were saying in before was that a lot of these behaviors are learned, and they're learned to be dealt with as well. So a lot of us, we get in relationships with people that they in because they participate in these objectionable behaviors that are familiar to us, but we know aren't right. So they could have occurred in our previous relationships in the past, or in your home stances when you were growing up as a child. Um, so being able to address those issues helps you as the individual grow, so that when you are dealing with this person, the situation has to change, because your role, you've changed as a person. So essentially you're not playing that same role that you were playing with that person before.
Right.
So they have to treat you differently if they want to be able to associate with you.
Right.
um and so yeah, and that kind of also plays into reweighing your emotional intimacy with that person. So if like you said, the goal is to get to peace. If the only way to get to peace with this person is to uh let's say if it was your partner, is if you guys have to physically split and live in two locations, if that's what has to be done to bring peace, then that's what has to be done. um
Right.
Pops, you want to weigh in real quick?
I mean, yeah, man. You said a mouthful, man, but everything you said was right in his acts, huh? They call it in the nation the self-accusing spirit. Um, that's when you look at everything as far as your character flaws within yourself, and tell yourself that what things that you have done or contributed to the makeup of a toxic relationship. You know what I mean? That's what we have to do as far as looking at ourselves in the mirror, and not looking so much to always put blame on somebody, but a person can only do what you allow them to continuously do. And
Right.
if we allow them to continually do things to us, then that is what will continue to occur, unfortunately.
All right. And so the last one is therapy. Therapy is recommended where, let's say, if the relationship is a family dynamic, or let's say your domestic partner. In those cases, the emotional intimacy you want to have. Everyone wants to have a relationship with their parents or their family members, and everyone should want a healthy relationship with their partner or their spouse. So in that case, therapy is going to be needed, because I'm assuming you would want to keep the emotional intimacy high. And the best way to do that with that kind of situation would be professional help. All right.
Amen. And never feel ashamed to see a therapist or talk to somebody, or somebody who has the qualifications to assist or help you in whatever endeavor that you're going through. You know what I mean? I know in the Black community, we have issues. You know what I mean? And a lot of our issues stem from the things that occurred when we were slaves. And we are suffering still from that trauma. You know what I mean? Everywhere around us is a reflection of our in servitude, you know what I mean, to this country. And when we don't receive a benefit, um, specifically us as the beneficiary of what we produce and what we help build, um, that can be traumatic, man, and that can cause a lot of conflict. That can create a lot of toxic relationships. It's not just a toxic relationship with your loved one, but there's a toxic relationship with the government of the United States and Black people. That is a toxic relationship. Um, we're no different from an abusive woman that's in a relationship with an abusive man. Or
Yeah, absolutely. This
right,
applies to every kind of relationship that you have outside of yourself, with
right,
either an organization, a person, a group of people. You know what I'm saying? Again, anytime you're dealing with someone or a group of people, when these behaviors occur, um, it's not on the restraints of an individual. These are
not at all,
behaviors where
not at all.
a government can inflict this on a group of people. Um, so and
And
the
they
same rules
have
apply. The same rules
right,
apply on how to resolve them. If in the case of, let's say, this is your government, and your government is manipulating you, controlling your nature, being disparaging, uh, is abusive to you, it, constant put downs, constant fighting with you and the government. Your government is lying to you, being dishonest. You have the right, um, to yourself, to separate, um,
yes,
to to weigh the pros and cons of this relationship that you have with the government.
right,
And if the like I said before, when I was talking about the individual, if the list of what the government has done to you is longer, negative in comparison to the positives, you need to rethink the emotional intimacy that you have with this government.
and
Um,
walk away.
right,
Yeah, walk away. Now you hit the nail on the head, man.
right.
You know
You
what I
got to
mean?
the self reflect, all that stuff. It's the same. All of that still applies.
Absolutely, absolutely, indeed. Well, I definitely hopefully we came to some sort of common goal as far as as far as the acceptance of what we said in today's podcast, when it comes to toxic relationships. And I hope somebody can take heed to whatever we said and utilize it, apply it. You know what I mean? A lot of us, we learn things, and we can learn a lot. But when we are not applying what we have learned, then it really goes out the window. What use is knowledge when it's not applied? When you don't utilize the knowledge that you obtain and project it onto others, that what's the point? You know what I mean? What was the purpose of learning that if you're still going to treat the person the same way? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Some knowledge brings power. Well, knowledge is power. And when you have power, what are you doing to utilize that power? Are you using it to manipulate people? Or are you using it to build and uplift? You know what I mean? Is one or the other. You know what I mean? Take your pick. But if you're doing things for the evil side of the coin, then your presence would not be tolerated nor accepted in our community.
Absolutely. All right, Pops. Anything else you want to add to the live before we get off?
Yeah, one last thing, man. It's we're going through this toxic relationship topic, man, and it's sad to say that the justice for Dante Wright, the young man who was shot, killed by the white female officer, her sentencing was today, and out of, I think it was like 10 years maximum that she was facing, she only got 2 years for the killing and the murder of another black man. She only got 2 years. So I'm gonna let I just want to report that, and let that sink in for a second, and think about this relationship that we have with this system. You know what I'm saying? How long are we going to tolerate not getting the due justice for our lives that are being taken away from other people? You know what I'm saying? And ourselves too. I'm not going to, disregard what we do to ourselves, but damn, that don't mean everybody else is open to take our lives away, man. That's not good, And I just wanted to shed some light on that. Also, I want to have some information on Amir Locke, the other young brother who was also killed and murdered in his sleep by the police, who claimed that they had a search warrant, and apparently they really didn't. So I have eyes on that story as well. So stay tuned to next week. Also, we got something special, a special guest coming up. I want to say next Thursday or Friday.
Yes, sir.
Just got to get the confirmation of when this individual will be available, and it's going to be epic, man. I can't wait.
All right, guys. With that being said, this has been another episode of TwoTreys podcast, episode 14. We hope you guys enjoy and have learned a lot from this broadcast today.
Indeed.
If you guys have enjoyed the show and the broadcast, please leave a like, go ahead and comment and subscribe to the channel. And in the description box below, if you guys would love to leave us a donation, there's a donation tab below in the description box. But that has been another episode, Pops. We'll see you guys next week. Today's Friday, right?
Today's Friday. Enjoy
another week in the books.
But we'll be back fresh Monday with the new hit, new topic, man.
Yes, sir.
What you got planned for the weekend, son?
I don't know. We'll see.
Chill,
I might go out. Maybe.
All right. All right.
At least today. I got work on the weekend, but
Okay.
probably today I'll go ahead and do a little something.
All
Enjoy
right.
myself.
Be safe while you're doing it, man. And definitely always enjoy yourself, man.
Yes, sir.
All
And
right.
to you guys as well. Enjoy your weekend. We'll be
Everybody-
back on Monday with another show. Until then,
Another episode.
2 trays out.
Two Trey.
All right, I'll go ahead and
Peace.
play the music to get us out of here. And
All right.
all right, pops. See you next week.
Assalamu alaikum, son.
Walaikum salam.
Love you.
Love you too.